It is currently 2 a.m. and here I am, rewatching The Simpsons. Again, surrounded by the soft yellow glow of the screen. As I dust the last mustard Cheeto crumbs off myself, it suddenly strikes me. Where does each member of my custard-colored family end up? I don't know, call it yellow fever, but I suddenly had this burning need to know. So instead of calling it a night and sleeping a normal 7 to 8 hours like a functioning adult, I re-Cheeto dusted myself and dove even deeper into Simpsons lore, determined to piece it all together in one singular night. Impossible maybe, but I went insane. So I cracked open a fresh whiteboard marker and pieced together what I think may be the most consistent future for my favorite TV family. This consists of what I like to call the 5 main timeline episodes. Future drama, which is set 8 years into the future. Holidays of future past, set 30 years into the future. Days of future, set 1 year after the previous episode. Gattaca's Finch, and It's a Blunderful Life, set 60 years ahead. My sanity also depended on me keeping in mind that The Simpsons doesn't exactly follow what I'd call the straight and narrow. Kind of like my boy, Bart.
I know it's you, Homer.
Simpson, the eternal troublemaker, class clown, master of pranks. He's the kid we all knew in school, the one everyone would place good money on to never grow up. And for a long time, I believe Bart wouldn't. I figured out that the main timeline kicks off from season 16's future drama, where Professor Frink uses the power of astrology, yes, astrology, to take us 8 years into the future. Turns out it is, in fact, a real science, and not just a way to connect with chakra baddies on Instagram. But don't get me wrong, that does definitely work. Future drama thrusts me into the era of teenage Bart. My boy's off to a good start as he's set to graduate high school. Plus, like the extreme sportsman he is, he manages to land Jenda, a dope skater girl that he takes to prom. After the dance, Bart professes his undying love and proposes to her, but she's not really feeling his future aspirations.
Bart, I hate to say this, but I think I outgrew you. Just this minute.
Comes to show, the worst thing she can say isn't no. This kind of sets the stage for their on-again, off-again love affair. After high school and his first taste of serious love, we jump forward to holidays of future past, where Bart's world has completely changed. The skater boy who once avoided all responsibility now has a family of his own. It's surreal. He's trying to make it work as a husband and father, but just like those early pranks, his marriage to Jenda has a way of unraveling. The rebellious spirit is still there, only now it's mixed with the struggle of keeping his family together. And some deep, profound sadness. Unfortunately, Jenda was spot on about his pretty shaky prospects and winds up divorcing him. My boy Bart winds up right back where he started at Springfield Elementary. Relax, he's not doing that badly. The school's been converted into crummy apartments. Sad? Almost definitely. But tragic? Oh yeah! At this point, I'm starting to really think that things are heading downhill for my yellow fellow. And you know what? For the first time in a very long while, my thinking just may be right.
Don't worry, I got some buyers coming over. They grow back, right?
Just get me that rent or you'll be...
Addicted?
And the crowd goes oof! From class clown to divorced dad, Bart's biggest battles are with the walls he's built up himself. Seeing his sons who barely tolerate his company only brings that home. The algaes just keep on coming too. I get the feeling his sons forget it's frickin' Christmas. A time to be nice at the very least. They honestly did not have to tell him this.
Mom's boyfriend is good at detangling them. Well, maybe Mom should marry him. She did. We weren't supposed to tell you. Your mother remarried?
But kids will be kids. Very brutal and unimaginably cruel. This tough love must have struck a nerve with Bart because he later confesses to Lisa that he thinks he's a lousy father. My boy looks sincerely saddened by the emotional distance between him and his sons. I literally cried for a long time after watching this particular moment from his heart-to-heart with his little sis.
You're the person I always wanted to be.
Blame it on my profound sleep deprivation and the fact that I love a good redemption arc, but I'm a complete mess. But I'm also truly touched when I see him get real with his boys and come clean about being a lousy father. I find myself being beaming with pride when I see my dude finally take sincere strides toward clearing the air with his boys.
I'm a deadbeat dad. Anything in my life is you.
And despite all his efforts, I can't help but feel for how the mans just don't seem to catch an iota of a break. Because just when I think Bart has finally found his stride, he's got it back, we hit season 25's Days of Future about 1 year after Days of Future Past. Here, the fallout of his choices starts showing. Still divorced, trying to connect with his kids, things seem to be doing a whole lot better. He and Jenna's relationship, however, is just so bleak that I can almost feel the pain leaping out of my monitor and physically strangling me, Homer style. I tried to say strangling, but I got choked because I was getting strangled. Just play the clip.
We're going camping this weekend.
But our thing was camping.
Oh, my boy Bart has somehow reached the peak of Mount Divorced Dad. Congratulations. Plant that flag. You frackin' earned it. In a bid to get over his messy romance, he goes to the club with Nelson reluctantly. That's how you know you hit rock bottom. He's trying his luck with the ladies, but he's straight up just not having a good time. Bart even gets kicked out for bumming everyone out. He then comes across a suspiciously targeted billboard that mentions him by name, and he accepts the invite and goes inside to get his brain zapped to get over Jinda. Bro goes full eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. Slowly, things start looking up for him again. I'm especially happy to see my boy get his pimp stride and pull out some of that classic Bart charm again.
Wow, now I see you, Miss Hoover.
No way. Did I just see this mad lad riz up Miss Hoover? Dude's getting so much! He should change his name to Bartholomew! I'll let myself out for that one. I'm sorry, I apologize, sincerely. He then has this rather unsettling Diddy-like encounter with Krusty in an entire circus of clowns. I'm happy to see his renewed boost in confidence is actually helping him grow up emotionally.
He's the fool.
You're just saying that because
His ex looking hot, everything he's lost.
This leads to another brief on-again-again affair with Jinda. That's until some problems arise that are the same problems as last time, and Bart sees that this time he's over her now. Which is when we're shown he's been hooked to the machine the whole time. Meaning, yes, he didn't bang Krusty in his insane clown posse. This procedure helps him close the Jinda chapter in his life as he finally gets closure on their tumultuous relationship, allowing him to focus all his energy on himself and his boys rather than clinging to old flames. I catch a prophetic glimpse of where this change takes him in season 30's Dedicus Finch. We see that he's even grown more comfortable wearing the dad badge as he seems close with his boys. He even takes them on a play date.
Have an affair? Yet? Don't rush me.
The dude truly seems to be enjoying these signs of a real connection with his boys. Speaking of connections, I feel there are some dots I need to connect by taking a look at some of Bart's semi-alternate timelines. This is my attempt to piece together a fuller, if somewhat chaotic, glimpse into his future. No, you're the nerd here, not me. I touch grass every day. So my investigation takes me to season 11's Bart to the Future. And if we try to piece this into the main timeline, it seems that at some point, Bart became a transient and tried to bum off Lisa, who also happens to be the president of the United States. That's when he uses that classic charisma to pull off one hell of a diplomatic maneuver.
Guys, the thing is, we totally have the money. Hire it to you. But, go on home and look in your mailboxes, because I checks out.
Turns out being a deadbeat gives you some skills in the calming debt collectors department. Lisa's so grateful that her big bro bought her and the entire United States a bit of time to out their money trouble.
What can I do to thank you? Legalize it. Legalize what? Consider it done.
I can't believe how incredibly and hilariously on brand this is, despite us never catching a glimpse of the side of him at the present, because, he's 8 years old. But the legalization sets off a chain of events that ultimately saves Bart from being a deadbeat. A dead Bart. I'm sorry. As we can see in episode 20, season 32, an entire 11 years later.
I know what you need. Some president.
Why did you bring that here?
A, it's still cool, and C, you really need to chill out.
Hi, caramba! I spat out my Rain energy drink. Look, watching that. Not sponsored, but hit me up, Rain. I always love you. Bart becomes a cannabis entrepreneur, and he's loaded. My dude has not only procured, but has also secured the bag. He used the profits from his successful weed business to buy 3 sports teams. Talk about seed money. And Bart don't stop there. And a plot twist I, for one, never saw coming. He ends up... Wait for it. Are you waiting? Good, because I'm waiting too. Ooh, I bet you just really want to... It's a judge. He became a judge. He must have put himself through law school. I suppose with the trouble he's gotten into, he thought he might as well learn how to get himself out of trouble. But Bart being Bart, he don't stop there either.
1 senior citizen and 1 Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
My guy becomes Chief Justice of the Supreme freaking Court. Maybe he has to do some mooning of my own. I mean, I doubt there's ever been a better glow up in The Simpsons, like, entire... Actually, all of television television history. He even spends some time with Homer. Even with all his success and despite his and Homer's ups and downs, I'm guessing hundreds of strangulations, these two scoundrels finally grow close to each other in this heartwarming twist.
Which one's a mouse?
Itchy.
Itchy's a jerk.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise that by the time we reach season 35's It's a Blunderful Life, my boy seems to have truly come full circle. He's transformed into a wizened patriarch in his own right. As the entire Simpson clan gathers for Thanksgiving, we see Jif and Skippy are now grown-ups. 10 points if you can spot Bart's grandson in the mix. After all the growth he's done, it's no surprise that in his later years we see a much older Bart living in a retirement home, looking back fondly over his life.
What a great ride.
You know, for someone who's never quite fit the mold, Bart's future turns out surprisingly well. And in true Bart fashion, it's packed with authenticity and adventure every step of the way. And I'm thinking maybe he legged it from the old folks home, because at some point in season 29's Flanders Ladder, we see now an 80-year-old Bart at the sunset of his life. In a true Bart form, he goes out as he lived, with a banger of a prank. Poor old Skinner couldn't handle seeing Skinner suction fireworks, and he suffers a heart attack, slumping over in his electric wheelchair. In an ironic turn of events, this happens. And that is how Bart Simpson, the legendary prankster, dies at age 80. I can't argue that this is the most Bart way to go, who's laughing until the very end. If that's not committing to the bit, I don't know what is. You know who would know, though? Lisa Simpson, the brilliant and kind saxophone virtuoso of Springfield. Not to toot her horn, but deep down, we all know Grandpa was cooking when he said she's the only worthwhile Simpson since, like, ever. However, haters will say that my spiky-haired girl may suffer from a strong case of know-it-allism. Someone get this man an apron, because he's cooking yet again. Through my years as an avid Simpsons fiend, I feel like I've practically watched Lisa grow up. That's why it's no shocker to me that whichever timeline I follow, our golden gal always winds up at the very tippy top.
Tarot cards don't work.
Don't they, Madam President?
Lisa's path toward greatness really starts to take shape in future drama, 8 years into the future. I see our girl isn't just ahead in class, but in life as well. She's prepping for prom because even though she's only in her mid-teens, Lisa's graduating an entire 2 years early, which, let's be honest, is just classic Lisa. She's also set to receive Mr. Burns' prestigious scholarship.
Bart tells me you got into Yale.
Yeah, even though McDonald's owns a school.
Finding out Lisa's going to Yale is like finding out the sky's blue or that crooked Mr. Burns sleeps on a spiral staircase, because, I mean, no one else in Springfield even stood half a chance. I must admit that I'm pretty shocked when I saw that she's dating Milhouse. The unlikely pair even end up going to prom together. I'm not gonna lie, the dude's looking pretty jacked here. I come to learn it's something he managed to pull off during his brief stint in Juvie, but that's a messed up story for another time. Today's messed up story is about how Bart's nerdy bestie ended up pulling femme icon Lisa Marie Simpson. If you're thinking that he must have carried out some kind of heroic feat to get this straight up queen's attention in the first place, then you're kind of close, because
sorry I'm late, Lisa. Totally gunning my lap.
yuck, man. I mean, the levels of slime would not only match, but raise Nickelodeon's Kids' Choice Awards any day of the week. Plus, I also doubt that my boy Milton's toad physique is all Maddie, because he takes one of their many breakups in what I'd like to call a roid ragey kind of way.
Problem! Milhouse mother's handsome!
As we move along, it's clear that their future romantic partnership is basically canon at this point, which I just hate. I just feel that my girl Lisa deserves way better, you know, man? But things don't seem to be going too great for her, as her rough patch gets even more grim when her Yale scholarship is awarded to Bart, of all people. This is after he somehow saves Mr. Burns from a burglar. Dude, I fell off my chair when I saw this amazing remix of an old Simpsons classic.
You wrecked my life! You're gonna wreck my life!
Lisa resigns herself to a pitiful future with Milhouse, which is why I'm relieved when Bart gives her Yale scholarship back and her future begins to resemble something more Lisa-like. Her focus on academic pursuits is confirmed as we fast forward to holidays of future past. The photo montage in the beginning of this episode shows us that she definitely went to college, where she belongs. True to her bold and somewhat non-conformist nature, Lisa becomes quite the explorer of her identity. And like many college students before her, she explores her sexuality. Like, really explores her sexuality. She even finds herself in a throuple, or as the kids call it, a polycule for a time. I mean, who can blame her with what rent prices being what they are these days? Talk about living life on her own terms. As time passes in the montage, I see that her and Milhouse end up married. Lisa looks quite unhappy, and no matter how much I passionately yell at my monitor at 3 a.m., waking up everyone in a 10-mile radius, these two end up together. Heck, they legit wind up having a daughter together. Her name's Zia, and she is, from what I can see, a typical teenage girl.
Hi, Zia. How did you do on your math test?
Gee, I'm fine, Mom. Thanks for asking. I'm going online.
I'm not surprised that Zia's uber lax attitude towards schooling has Lisa, a chronic high achiever, freaking out. She vents her concerns to Milhouse, telling him how she's worried about Zia turning into her older brother, who, as you know, isn't exactly doing too hot right now. Milhouse reassures her in his own way by reminding Lisa that they used only the best genetic material to have Zia, which apparently didn't include any of his genes.
Oh, you poor thing. This is a tough time of year for someone who's allergic to holly, mistletoe, the red part of candy cane.
Dang, dude! Save some allergies for the rest of us. Milhouse suggests that she take Zia over to her parents' house while he escapes to a non-Christmas celebrating state to alleviate his allergies. Zia and Lisa's relationship isn't doing any better either. She tries bonding with her daughter over a Cher concert, but Zia just is not interested, and I can't blame her. Instead of plugging into the Ultranet, a Black Mirror virtual world where she spends most of her time. Frustrated, Lisa vents to Marge about her disrespectful daughter. Marge, in her classic calm way, suggests Lisa let Zia be, but Lisa snaps, assuming Marge can't possibly understand. So still frustrated, she confides in Bart as they drown their sorrows. Can't say I'm happy about it, but my theory that Lisa has a thing for degenerates is proven valid when I hear this low-key shocking part of their conversation.
Should I have married Nelson? Because we still talk on the phone.
It doesn't surprise me one bit that her and Milhouse's marriage isn't exactly what I'd call working, but Nelson? Girl, go back to the throuple! What do I know, though? Eventually, Lisa's motherly worry takes over. She decides to enter the Ultranet herself to see what Zia is really up to. Inside Zia's virtual interweb room, Lisa finds a wall of posters featuring powerful women, including a portrait of herself. Finally, Lisa realizes that despite her teenage attitude, Zia does look up to her. They share this sweet, heartfelt hug. Well, teenagers will be teenagers, no matter where we find ourselves in the space-time continuum. Feeling satisfied with this brief return to order, I then catch a glimpse of Lisa's life a year later in Holidays of Future Future. By then, her union with Milhouse is anything but a fairy tale. A twist that feels especially ironic in a timeline where fantasy elements like the undead roaming the streets are somehow more believable. Here, Lisa shifts her focus from academic achievements to showing compassion even for the most unconventional creatures. That's right! My girl actually helps out in a zombie soup kitchen! Or should I say, Zoop? I'll let myself out. Anyway, all that doesn't surprise me. This, though, certainly does have me doing several double takes.
All we do, bite, bite, bite.
I'm sure you're one of the good ones, of course, but all stereotypes come from a place of...
I didn't have Milhouse turning into a zombie on my bingo card, yet here we are. I learned that Lisa is very much into zombie Milhouse. For one, he doesn't breathe, meaning he doesn't wheeze from his geek boy allergies. He even finally starts to fight his own battles, laying the smackdown on the 3 school bullies, now grown-up bullies, when they try to rob him and Lisa. She's surprised and impressed that Milhouse is actually brave, and our Lisa, who I'm starting to think is a bit of a freak, starts to prefer him this way.
The old Milhouse would have been helpless. I love how you're dropping all your definite articles.
I guess ladies love the undead. I know I do. At first, I just didn't want to believe it, so I convinced myself that it was a mere pity partnership, but the proof is in the loveless pudding, I'm afraid. But hey, I guess what she lacks in romantic success, she makes up for in ambition. In fact, in many semi-alternate futures, Lisa becomes the president of the United States, and when I say many, I mean a lot. Bart to the future. The kid is alright. The Margian Chronicles. Grampy, can you hear me? Daticus Finch. Hail to the teeth. Mother and child reunion. Homer's adventures through the windshield glass. In season 11's Bart to the Future, Lisa becomes the first female president at 38, inheriting a nearly bankrupt nation from none other than...
As you know, we've inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. How bad is it, Secretary Van Houten?
We're broke.
Donald Trump, an entire 16 years before the reality TV star actually took office in real life. Spooky, am I right? It's clear through her style of collaborative leadership that she's the right person for the job, even willing to make decisions for the best of the country. The fact that she lets Marge, Homer, and eventually Bart move into the White House with her is a great reflection of her staying tethered to her roots, despite her high office. Then in Mother and Child Reunion, we get a more personal look at just how high she's willing to let her office be as she reconnects with Bart and even tries his product.
Oh, I gotta tell you something.
I guess it technically is vegetarian. Her term does naturally conclude eventually, and she goes back to being a mostly regular mom. I'm not quite sure if their romance eventually fizzles out, or Milhouse succumbs to one of his many allergies, or just the circle of life, because we don't really see him at the family gathering in It's a Blunderful Life. We do see a much older Lisa along with an older Zia. She's sitting next to two of her future grandchildren. As she aged, Lisa chose to take her quest for meaning more seriously as she ends up at a Buddhist monastery where she achieved enlightenment, topping off a long list of W's with the ultimate achievement.
Oh my god!
Been a waste of time.
Well, ain't that a bitch? She realizes it was all just a waste of time, which also leaves me pondering about the true meaning of existence. But I, for one, can't deny that she's had a long, fascinating ride. Lisa ends up passing away at the age of 98 from a heart attack on a silent spiritual retreat. Speaking of silent, Maggie Simpson. She's the quiet one, right? Barely says a word throughout the entire series, but when she does, it is iconic. Like this rousing speech she gives to her fellow Rugrats.
Throughout the ages, the finger painter, the Play-Doh sculptor, the Lincoln logger stood alone against the daycare teacher of her time. She did not live to earn approval stickers.
Wow, I guess she's been quiet for a reason. And that reason is deep thought. I see that Maggie doesn't show up much in future dramas. I only catch a glimpse of her enjoying a holiday in Alaska, which I have recently learned is a fantastic place to be. The snow is wonderful. Definitely pay it a visit. But here, it's become some sort of a beach resort. Climate change. Speaking of progress, do you remember Unibrow Baby? I mean, Gerald? He's been Maggie's arch nemesis since day one. Like, literally day one. The born day. The same day they were born. And Maggie got the last nappy, causing Gerald to have a rash that he blames her for. So these two have an immensely long-standing mutual animosity towards each other until... well, till those little pesky teenage hormones come into play. We catch another glimpse of a teenage Maggie in this little foreshadowing of her future self in the photo montage at the start of the Holidays Future Past episode. But I digress. However, I implore you to put a pin on this. I'll be real, I love to see the Simpsons writers' knack for the art of story on full display as they weave the classic ops to lovers narrative into Maggie's future. This scene had me wondering if Gerald's the father of Maggie Jr. And I've also been talking amongst my fellow sleep-deprived basement dwellers that these two end up married. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, back to that pin. Maggie's far less little the next time we see her. And we flash forward 30 years to the photo montage in Holidays of Future Past. We get treated to nothing short of a cosmic twist. The baby who barely talks ends up becoming, wait for it, a music superstar and the voice of her generation. Yeah, I had to let that sink in for a second or 30. Maggie Simpson becomes a world-famous rock and roll star. It's always the quiet ones, huh?
Hello, St. Louis!
Well, not really. But come to think of it, I remember in Lisa's wedding when Dr. Hibbert dropped this little hint.
She's quite a hellion, but she does have an incredible voice.
I just brushed it off as a throwaway line. Turns out Maggie's got pipes. Girl can belt it out with the best of them. The medbot examining Maggie's pregnant belly says that she can't make a sound until the baby comes. How convenient. And so Maggie remains silent. Turns out her bandmates aren't exactly pleased with the doctor's orders, though, because Maggie is, after all, their lead singer. They might have more to worry about, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like Maggie's life is anything but straightforward. She's all grown up and living the full rock star cliche.
Now, can you tell me who the father is?
We will not. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to watch.
Oh, Maggie. Now, I'm not one to slut shame, but... I mean, she's sleeping with every single band member. She has no idea who the father of her baby is. Maybe it is always the quiet ones. We then see a heavily pregnant Maggie is at Heathrow, attempting to travel back to Springfield for Christmas. She's told she's too far in her pregnancy to teleport and will have to use a more antiquated form of travel, flying. I can see that Boeing still has a monopoly on the air travel industry.
Oi! Can I get a pillow for my head?
Suicide pills, mohawk gel.
I'm just kidding, Boeing. Please don't kill me, please. I'm too broke to die. The passenger next to Maggie even orders a can of dog food from the stewardess and wolfs it down in a manner I can only describe as inspiring. She eventually makes it to her hometown and gets into a cab where she goes into labor. If that's not great timing, I don't know what is.
I'm sorry, but there's no room at the inpatient facility.
Lady, this is Maggie Simpson. She just played a sold-out show in Beijing.
Must be all the rhythm she's been gifted with. She gets taken in and witnesses nothing short of a touch of genius-level future medicine. An epidural with a design update that's just tailor-made for Maggie's oral fixation.
Should we start an epidural?
No, they're much more effective.
Balance. Maggie reunites with the whole family, and good old Abe say it don't really matter who the father of Maggie's baby is, because if there's one day to give unwed mothers a break, it's Christmas. This is a very progressive take for someone his age. Gonna get a you go girl for grandpa! No? Okay. We see her even less in season 35's It's a Blunderful Life, where the entire future Simpson family is all gathered around. I see that Maggie's had another daughter at some point in this timeline. No sign of Gerald or her other bandmates, but I'm glad they all look healthy and happy. I gotta say, I'm awash with relief when I see that Maggie's story does not follow the old rock and roll cliche of spiraling into tragedy like so many rock stars before her. Instead, Maggie Simpson winds up transcending this entire plane of existence. She neither burns out nor fades away. That's right. In the end, we see Maggie go full cosmic entity and become immortal, living out her days as a literal star. Radiant and bright, unlike the next Simpson on the list.
Lord help me, I'm just not that bright.
I hate to say it, but my boy Homer's got a point there. If there's one thing I feel we can all agree on, it's that Homer J. Simpson is practically a sentient hazard sign. Get this, I found a study by Downtown LA Law Group that crunched the numbers on Homer's accidents. They looked at 50 well-documented incidents covering everything from broken bones and head injuries to food poisoning to this wild encounter.
Oh my God, I'm gonna be killed by a bear! Well, I guess I don't have to worry anymore about the dangers of smoking.
It's how nonchalant he is for me. Brave, stunning. Some would say even demure. Anywho, this study found the total cost of his injuries would add up to a staggering $143 million in medical bills, or in American terms, one ambulance ride. That's assuming he's uninsured, which, knowing Homer, is most definitely the case. Oh! Go indeed, homie. Go indeed. In future drama, he and Marge are separated. This, I have to say, is entirely his fault. Dude blows their savings on a ridiculous real estate purchase, but he manages to patch things up with Marge because, I mean, come on, these two lovebirds were made for each other. Plus, just when I think everything's over for him, he pulls a Homer and weathers whatever life hurls his way, like being a granddad, and an amazing one at that. We see this on full display in Holidays of Future Past, where, wait for it.
Wow, Dad, that's really impressive.
After I stop drinking, way to stay close to my bottles.
That's right, Homer's given up the drink, becoming an actual pretty decent grandpa in the future. I know, it sounds wild, but it's true. He messed up a lot with Bart, and by a lot, I mean a lot. Watching him with Bart's kids to see how Homer's mellowed out. It's like all those years of trial and error finally taught him something about being a family man. Or maybe he's just too tired to mess up anymore. I'm low-key touched by this cute, nice little redemption arc for Springfield's king of catastrophe. Someone who isn't so happy about this change, though, is Bartholomew, who's a bit astounded by how Homer can go from being such a lousy father to such an awesome papa. Seems all the dudes in the Simpson brood all have some generational issues.
Why did you bring us here, Homer?
To prove their dad's a jerk. And everyone's right. But you love him.
Speaking of issues, I was pretty sad when I thought this is a future where Abe Simpson is no longer with us, which based on his age isn't so far-fetched. Imagine all the crypto I poured into grief therapy to get over Abe's death, only to find out that Abe is alive and chilling. Like literally in Springfield's cryogenic facility. But hey, that's the Simpsons writer's room for you. Story over continuity every time. And honestly, I stand. And it turns out Homer's become a better son as well.
But you'd always come out on the freeway. 'Cause deep down see me smushed. You did?
Yep, shockingly, these yellow weirdos sure do consistently show love for each other. When it comes to Homer's future, his innate penchant for disaster doesn't exactly slow down. In Days of Future, Marge wakes up to find Homie belly up on the kitchen table where he passed out after binge eating the entire contents of the fridge and pantry. She, being a good wife, gives Homer a concerned speech about him watching his health. It looks like she's finally got through to her husband as he proclaims his good health starts now. Of course, it's a little too late as Homer suffers a fatal heart attack on his way to tell Marge about his commitment to a lifestyle change.
Pepperoni! All that's left are clever words.
When it comes to The Simpsons, things have a way of getting more ridiculous than my human-sized brain can comprehend. Like when I witnessed Moe with my own two bloodshot eyes hitting on the dude's wife at his funeral. Luckily for Marge and all of us homies stands, Springfield's resident genius, Professor Frink, always has some kind of wacky plan up his lab coat sleeve.
Stop!
Stop with the wailing and the gnash. Made a copy.
Look, I'll be real. If I had to pick someone who needed a backup plan for dying, Homer would top my list every single time. The dude just has this habit of dying. Looks like Homer's mortality is something of the past, as we have plenty of Homer clones to spare thanks to Frank's genius move. The professor goes on to explain that he was going to clone a sheep, but needed a less complex creature. Turns out being not so bright has finally paid off for my boy. Marge pleads with the Homer version 2.0 to not waste the second chance that he's been given. Bless her cotton socks for trying, but I think we all know that Homer's gonna do Homer things, like eating the potato salad poor Marge made for the dude's own funeral until he dies of a heart attack again. Homer decides to take this whole clone business and run with it all the way to the Diddy danger zone. Over. And over.
Homer, you'll be alright. Oh, solid food.
And over again. Before I knew it, 30 years goes by, and I can't say I'm surprised that Homer's zillionth funeral isn't really filling up the pews like it used to. Frank comes into the church and announces that he can't bring Homer back to life this time around. Yep, the endless clone supply is finally dried up. I must admit, it was an insanely good run. A homie run, if you will. But what next? Well, Frank stored the remaining essence of Homer in a USB drive that he plugs into a TV. And I'm not one to body shame, but...
Where's my body?
From now on, you're just going to be a face on a monitor.
The guy who spent most of his life glued to the screen literally becomes one. I guess you are what you watch. Finally, Marge, who dare I say is a gosh darn saint, gets rid of this BS and kicks Homer out. He then lives on Bart's TV for a bit, where I witness a rather unsettling scene where Homer watches Bart have sex. Yeah, this is all kinds of creepy. Well, at least it was technically part of a dream sequence. I'm guessing there must have been some point where Homie gets part of his human anatomy back, because there's also this part of his future where he practically becomes...
Hey, you're kind of quiet tonight.
A frackin' human robot keg? Can't say I don't love him for this. I guess dreams do come true. As we move forward in time to the episode It's a Blunderful Life, Homie has apparently shed his robot body and is just a hologram with a fierce appetite. This brings me to one of those narrative pit stops I mentioned earlier. In Flanders Ladder, where I watch what I'm guessing is one of my dude's clones get shot down in a hail of bullets at age 59 while he's holding up a bank.
I knew it was a sandwich.
A food bank, that is, in true Homie fashion. I'd mourn this particular death of Homie because, I mean, while it does feel final, the robot thing seems to have a quite consistent theme for Homer, because there's this scene from season 30's Atticus Finch featuring a far, far future Homer.
I'll kick Homer in the butt.
You can kick it if you can find it. Go.
Sometimes generational healing comes from a little kick between a son and his robot father. In the end, no matter how many times he dies, gets cloned, or is reduced to a floating noggin, I appreciate how Homer really never changes. Sure, he might be a walking, talking catastrophe, but what gets me every time is how he always manages to make it back to his family. And the one person who's been there through it all, Marge Simpson. This blue-haired queen is the glue that holds the Simpson family together. Homer in particular. The relationship has been a roller coaster from the start, and the future is not exactly what I'd call different. Because let's face it, Homer's often dangerous shenanigans don't exactly always give forever marriage material.
Homer, we're separated. Can't just walk in without knocking.
Partying so hard with my single friend forgot the rules.
Well, that's one way to not get your wife back. I find myself 8 years from the present in future drama where Marge is doting on Bart and Lisa as they get ready for prom. She keeps getting interrupted by Homer, who we learn has been kicked out of the crib.
Sometimes people just grow up, Mom.
No, Mom dumped you 'cause underwater house.
Dude, what did I just hear? I won't lie, I love this somewhat misguided big guy, but heck, it's hard to bat for the dude who blew an entire nest egg on an underwater house. I can see why Marge has finally hit her limit and ended up kicking him out of the house, but then for a brief and slightly weird moment, she starts dating.
I've started seeing someone.
Hey, Krusty the Clown.
I'm gonna need a bite of your most flaming hot Cheeto because what the actual fuck? Krusty the Clown? Really? Krusty? I get that she's angry. She's looking for something different. Krusty! I guess Marge sure does love her a clownin' man. Silly little guys, if you will. Which probably explains this.
Marge, I thought you'd never take me back after what I did to Krusty.
You mean get beaten up by him?
Exactly.
Hey, if you can't beat them, get beaten up by them. Anywho, Marge ends up not only taking Homer back, but she actually grows grows to like their underwater home. I can't tell if that's sweet or just Stockholm Syndrome, but it's Marge, so she probably just found a way to make the best of it. As I move forward to holidays of future past, I can see that she and Homie are as into each other as ever. I'm particularly stoked to see that these two crazy lovebirds making the most of their golden years together. This doesn't stop her from being the go-to for Lisa and Bart as they struggle with the pitfalls of parenting. Marge is excited to have everyone together for the holidays because of course she is. She tries to share her approach to momming with Lisa, who's just not having any of it. That is until she has a drunken epiphany, leading us to a moment that straight up backs up my entire claim of Marge being an IRL saint.
Mom!
Sweetie, I've been waiting for so long.
I mean, just look at that. She's a walking, talking saint. My mom would have thrown all kinds of hands if I dared to barge into her room in the middle of the night hooting and hollering while she was fast asleep, but not my girl Marge. It's probably because she's as high as a giraffe's nose on that sweet LSD.
The only thing I'm high on is love. Love for my son and daughters. Yes, a little LSD is all I need.
I guess a little LSD never hurt anyone. Kind of, not really. This will probably need to be updated to LSDGC to include her grandchildren, which are growing in number by the day, mind you, as we get to see Marge fetch Maggie and Maggie Jr. from the hospital. And then find ourselves about a year later, where my girl Marge goes through about 31 years of burying what has to be 100 Homer clones, which must have started off as sad, but I think she eventually got over it, especially because that sad Mo keeps hitting on her at every single one. So it's no surprise when she pulls off this moment of being a straight up gangster.
No, I'm throwing you out of the house.
Hey, what did I do?
Nothing for 30 years. You're perfect for each other.
Can I get an ouch in chat? Ouch! I love it when she spills out of the traditional nice housewife mold, quote unquote, considering everything she's been through. I can't really blame her for wanting them to put some respect on her name. I don't see much more of her until I get a glimpse of the true power of standing your ground and setting boundaries with your loved ones here.
After 35 years of marriage, we've finally gotten it right.
Even my personality has gotten an upgrade. Whoa!
Sure, it took about 120 different clones, but I'm happy Marge finally gets the hubby she deserves. In most future timelines, Marge always proves to be the wisest amongst the Simpson clan, although she can be pretty stubborn, like in season 32's Mother and Child Reunion, where we see her and Lisa beefing because despite everyone's expectations, Lisa refuses to go to college. This isn't your typical insignificant mother-daughter fallout. When I say they were beefing, this is what I mean.
But could you have decided you didn't want to go to college before 10 years of me driving you to saxophone lessons, SAT prep, college tours of colleges you were never gonna go to?
Exactly. That's enough beef to open up my own steakhouse joint. This fallout really takes a toll on their relationship, which remains strained as Lisa does the least Lisa thing imaginable and chooses to not go to college, contradicting certain timelines, but we'll let that slide. Lisa's refusal to go to college ensures that this strain of the relationship lasts for years, even after she becomes president of the United Frackin' States. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom for the Simpsons family, because the mother and daughter eventually make up. That is one dystopian-looking future. The reconciliation sets up as perfectly for the events of It's a Blunderful Life, set 60 years from the present. We get to see everyone's back together as one big, happy family. Eventually, when Homer has finally exhausted all his clones, robot bodies, holograms, and passes on, at last, our Marge finally has the freedom to explore that thing she's always had for Flanders. Remember the horny mom fanfiction? Now, that's a sequence of words I'd not like to say, nor hear ever again. Anywho, this happens in the semi-alternate timeline explored in the episode Flanders Ladder, which shows a much older Marge hitched to a stupid sexy Flanders for whatever reason. I just know my boy Homer would absolutely hate this holy union. Marge's eventual death at the age of 84 looks pretty peaceful on the outside, and, well, it's not exactly clear how she goes. It could be that she simply passes away from old age after living a long and exhausting life, keeping everyone else in check. And is it just me, or is Ned Flanders' extremely prolific wall of diddly dead wives so incredibly sus? Maybe there was something else in that cup other than tea.